So good evening, everyone. My name's Rob Surson, your District Awards Chair. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're very appreciative of our director's time this evening, Commander May, who is joining us and will be facilitating our training. I will be assisting as well, and our members of our awards board, I think many of them are here too, so they'll have a chance to add their 2 cents towards the end as well. So let's see if we can get this started. All right, Commander, that's the first slide. It's all yours. I'm here to help.
All right, cool. Well, guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. This is certainly something new for me. Commodore Saracen twisted my arm pretty hard to do this, so I'm a little bit nervous doing this online, but nothing a little bit of Jim Beam and Coke won't take care of. In all seriousness, thanks a lot for chiming in or for tuning in. Let's do this thing. Let's kick it off. We put together this training, myself, Gary Derby, and Commodore Tucker. We met at Gary's house one night and we put some stuff together. We wanted to kind of make this a little bit simplified. Let's kind of take the guesswork out of this, because we found ourselves as the award committee, and then also when the awards would come to our office, we were spending a lot of time reformatting awards, and it just seems like we can do a better job at giving you folks, the leaders of your flotillas, the tools necessary to do the job. So that's kind of what this PowerPoint tonight is modeled by, and it's had a lot of great input from folks like the only two-time National Commodore Ev Tucker. So with that, let's go ahead and kick it off. Next slide, please. So here's some references for you. I'm not going to dwell too much on these hot links, but the two things I want to bring your attention to are the last two bullets, which is the award checklist and the award primer. So the awards checklist is a document that we put together. We actually, I'm a big believer in not recreating the wheel. So we took something that BSX had on the website. We pulled it down and we made it our own. We updated it in accordance with the Coast Guard Awards Manual as far as certain lines and formats and stuff like that. And then the award primer is a small 19-page document that's just kind of a quick reference guide. So we'll be talking about those as we go along. Next slide, please. That's very, very hard to see, but that is the awards checklist. As you can see, uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm going to try to bring it up full page, Commander.
Oh, okay, okay. So while he's trying to pull that up, the awards checklist is just a real quick down and dirty checklist to make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and it gives you a quick snapshot as far as what's the opening line supposed to be, what's the closing line supposed to be, you know, what's the font size supposed to be, so on and so forth. So here, thank you, Commodore, for pulling that up for us. You can quickly tell if you're working on most of the awards that we see at our level is mostly your LOCs, your Auxiliary Commandant Letter of Commendation. So that's 24 lines, but that includes this paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. So if we can scroll up, gives you, let's see, there's your opening phrase, a little bit lowers your closing phrase. I'm telling you guys, if you use the checklist, if you use the award primer that we'll talk about here in a minute, it's pretty darn hard to mess these things up. Okay. Some examples of opening and closing lines. So Commodore, I think we can go ahead and go on. So you know, there's if you've got someone that you're wanting to write up an award on, I would definitely pull out this little small 19-page award primer, which Commodore Saracen's getting ready to show you right now, and then also that awards checklist. Every single time I get an award, I pull it up on the screen, and on one side I've got the award, and the other side I've got this award primer. Commodore, if I can, is it okay to open back up the award primer or not?
Certainly. You're talking about this
one.
large. Yep. I should be able to open it up. Let me
Cool.
Give me 1 second.
And that'll be the only things that we open up like that, Commodore. Okay, so let's go ahead and go a couple of pages down. Okay, keep going. Okay, there's some good acronyms. You know, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, we love our freaking acronyms. Keep going. Some do's and some don'ts. Keep going. A little bit more. Okay, this is telling you how to fill out the Coast Guard 1650. Keep going. Okay, keep going, please. Okay, this is talking about, well, we'll talk about more about this too, but, you know, specifics, you know, having statistical data to back up your award. You know, instead of, you know, Auxiliaris Jones did a great job. Well, Auxiliaris Jones did X number of hours doing X, Y, and Z, and this was a result. Keep going, please. This, hold on 1 second. Okay, keep going. Okay, stop right there. So there's a few things about spelling things out. 68%, 5.5 million. Anytime you can have numbers to back up whatever it is you're trying to sell us in the award is a good thing. Keep going. One more, please. Okay, right there. This page right here, what page number is that? Like page 9 or 8 or something like that?
Page 8.
Page 8. So I use this page every single time that I go to look at an award, because I'm quickly trying to look at what is my margin supposed to be. So for the ALOC or the LOC, it's 1.9 on the bottom and 1 inch side. So I quickly look at this, and then if I'm doing an ALOC, I'll go to the very bottom page of this document. Can you go to the sample of the LOC at the bottom, sir? So at the very end of this document, you know, the majority of this document is samples of these awards. It gives you real life examples of these awards, which to me is a huge help, kind of seeing how things are formatted, what it's supposed to look like. And let's see, there's a commendation. Keep going. That's an achievement medal. And then this one should be, okay, that's a team award. Keep going. One more should be an LOC. Perfect, right there. So this is what your LOC should look like. So one of the things I'll do as well, besides looking at that page 8 to look at my margins, because I don't want to try to memorize the margins, I want to quickly look at this document and verify what you're doing. So this gives you a good example of an award. So, okay, we can go ahead and close that one. Any questions so far? And Nick, I'll rely on you to see if people are wanting to chat. Okay, so now we'll go into the steps. Now this is kind of an old part of the presentation that comes from BSX. This is talking about some templates that are online. You know, step 1, it's telling you go to the website, the Auxiliary National website. Step 2, you know, find the awards on the left. So basically, if you went to this website, you can actually pull down and drill down to all the different types of awards that are out there. And, you know, so choose an auxiliary award. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay, well, this is really what I want to focus on is why we do awards. So in a classroom environment, this is where I usually interact with you folks and drill down to, you know, why are we here? Why are we doing what we do? And to me, this is, you know, and someone just asked about how we get a copy of this. We'll make this available to you folks. I can, if we get a list of everybody, Commodore, we can send them this PowerPoint presentation and the attachments and stuff. So, but you know, why do we do the awards? Guys, this is simple. This is our duty. This is a leadership challenge. This is a leadership opportunity for us to recognize the men and women that are doing the hard work in which we all get to benefit from. So, you know, it motivates people, it recognizes people for their efforts, and at the same time, we don't want to just give awards out. Awards have to be earned, not given. So next slide, please.
Commander, we have a question when you're ready to take them.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we have one question. Let me try to pull it up here. It starts with, says, are award recommendation originators responsible for ensuring that accomplishment is supported by ARC's data? For example, if the member provided direct Coast Guard admin support for an extended period, must those hours costs be reflected in ARC's data to support an audit trail?
So what I would tell you about that is usually when these awards are presented to us, it's a good idea to have that data printed out to help justify the award. It kind of goes back to those numbers that we talked about in the award primer. If you can put some numbers behind whatever it is that you're trying to recognize the member for, it just has more punch. Otherwise, you know, we're selling it short. So a lot of times we'll see awards that just fall short, and we'll go back to the originator, we'll ask for a little more information, and lo and behold, we find out in addition to whatever it was that they were trying to be recognized for, we also found out that they, during this time, they also had 232 RBS hours, and they did, you know, so pulling that stuff from AUX data helps us write the award and helps us to justify that. So hope that answered your question. Is there another question?
There were some comments about the presentation, which I'll hold to the end, but I think that's
okay.
We're good to go.
Okay, good. So rolling on. So here on your screen is why we do the awards. We recognize the outstanding achievement. It's good for morale. You know, I've often heard my friend Commodore Adams say, you know, auxiliaries will do almost anything for a 67-cent ribbon. There's a lot of truth to be told to that. You know, we want to be recognized for the efforts in which we do. It motivates members. It motivates other people that see what's going on. And of course, we all know that that's the auxiliaries' only paycheck. But the very last caption is what I'm most concerned about and what I try to protect, and I work with my awards committee on. Whatever we do, we can't just give these out as participation ribbons. It has to be something that rises to the level of the award. Otherwise, we're cheapening the award. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, and not just for doing your job, okay? So who awards? Any member can do it. Elected officers, well, they have the responsibility to do it. And staff officers are responsible for identifying and recognizing members. You know, the one thing I will tell you about this is something that Commodore Tucker was passionate about. We can't forget our staff officers, our admin officers, the folks that are doing the nitty-gritty work. It's so easy to recognize our you know, the men and women that are out there pulling babies out of the surf. It's so easy to to recognize our operational folks, but oftentimes it's our logistics folks that are kicking butt and taking names that make it possible for us to go out and save the babies in the surf. So this is a leadership challenge for us to look at our staff and make a challenge to your flotillas to recognize someone. So go ahead, next slide. So this talks about when we want to award. Obviously, as soon as possible. You know, I'm old guard. I've been in the Coast Guard for 30 years, active duty, still looking for what I want to do when I grow up. But, you know, when I first came in the Coast Guard, the philosophy was, well, okay, that guy did a good job, but let's wait till the end of his tour and then we'll give him an award. Well, here's the problem. For us active duty folks, usually if your tour is 2 years to 4 years, your supervisor's really only going to remember the last 6 months. So if you screw up or, you know, you're not in favor, so I'm a big believer, if someone earns it, let's give it to them right away. Some other times that we can do these awards, change of watches, detrains, and when we can get the most recognition for the member, arranging for the spouse. Dave Gamble recently got an award for his involvement on the 87, in which he's a watchstander on. So, you know, we did a little bit of sneakiness to get his wife out there to surprise him and be out there on sector Hampton Roads when we presented him this award. And that meant so much to him that we took the effort to coordinate with his wife and to get her out there. It's pretty cool. And at special locations. Maybe there's a special location, they want to do it in front of the lighthouse ships, you know, so on and so forth. So next slide. So now let's talk about the different types of awards. Okay, next. So this here is pretty self-explanatory. These are a little bit rare: Distinguished Service Award, Legion of Merit, Plaque of Merit, Meritorious Service Medal, and Humanitarian Service Medal. Now, guys, just to put this into perspective, I've been active duty for 30 years, and I've only gotten 1 MSM. Those are very hard, very, very hard to come by. Next slide. So now, unit awards, these unit commendations, meritorious unit commendations, and flotilla meritorious achievement medals. And I think, Commodore Thornton, I believe the flotilla meritorious achievement medal, is that the one that we gave to Smithfield for Flotilla of the Year?
She chatted yes.
And she just chatted yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, so now let's get into the bread and butter of what we really work with. You know, here's the team awards. Meritorious team commendations recognizes the accomplishments of a team. And of course, it includes auxiliary members, active reserves, and civilians. Next slide. So can we go back a slide, please? So one of the questions that always comes up is, can auxiliary members recommend themselves or other auxiliaries for team awards? There's some debate about that at Coast Guard BSX, at Coast Guard headquarters. My opinion, my philosophy on this is anybody can recommend people for an award. But when we're talking about a team award, especially if you guys are referencing in your team award nomination or recommendation an active duty element, then I have to verify that with the active duty station. So that there is a check and a balance on team awards, but really I want everyone on board tonight to hear that anybody can put people in for team awards. It still has to meet the muster, still has to meet the points, if you will, to be recognized for the award. But definitely recommend folks put them in. Next slide. Some personal awards. We've got, this one's probably our most common, the Auxiliary Commandant Letter of Commendation. That's a mouthful. ALOC, or active duty comparison, would be the LOC. You've got the Auxiliary Achievement Medal, the Auxiliary Commendation Medal, and the Medal of Operational Merit. I've done a couple of MOMs, but the majority of mine are LOCs, achievements, and a few commendations. But these are our bread and butter right here. Next slide. This is what an LOC looks like, and I'm not going to bore you guys to death, but these so let's see here. It says it's equivalent to the Coast Guard's LOC, and Coast Guard units and directors can prepare award citations using the same criteria, format, style of an LOC. Okay, next slide. This here gives some specifics. Members serving in any capacity, the act of service resulting in an unusual and or outstanding achievement. Lesser than that is required for an achievement medal. So this would be kind of like the bottom, I don't mean to say it like that, but this would be the lower tier of the award, personal awards, okay? So the service or the performance of a special event or project. So next slide. So that one, there's a sample of it. We already kind of looked at that in that award primer. So that's what the LOC would look like. Next slide. Now this is what the achievement medal looks like. We'll go to the next slide. Now, okay, so it does talk about who can sign these awards. On that previous slide, it talked about who can sign the awards. A director, it says a commanding officer, 04 and above. Let's see here. The auxiliary achievement awarded by any Coast Guard commanding officer, 04 and above, of operational unit, or director. Okay, so you guys will see, hopefully I don't get in trouble for telling you guys my secret and letting you look behind the screen, but you know, some of these awards have to be 06 and above. So I'm from the marine safety field, we like to read in the gray. So I'll explain that on the next slide. So let's keep going. So here's the achievement medal, sustained professional or leadership achievements. Now, the key here is sustained. Okay, this isn't they go out and do one thing. This is a sustained over a period of time, outstanding achievement, outstanding level of performance and or achievement, and it can be either administrative or operations. Next slide. That's what it looks like. Next slide. Okay, now this is what I was going to kind of give you guys a peek behind the curtain. So a commendation medal, it says it needs to be by a commanding officer 06 or above of an operational unit, blah, 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 serving at a district office or serving as a director. So now I choose to interpret that as or serving as a director. So I'm a director of auxiliary. The commandant has put me here to be the director, to take this burden, the administrative burden, off of the admiral and the 06 that I work for. So you will see my signature on these. So because it says or serving as a director. So just so you guys know, that's maybe a little different than what you've seen in the past, but that's consistent with what my brother and sister director of auxiliaries are out there doing. So next slide on the commendation. So this would be a level up. So, you know, we talked about the LOC, we talked about the achievement. Well, now this is a commendation. So commendation is outstanding achievement, administrative services accomplished in a manner in which would be could normally be expected, much better than could normally be expected, and it's not for just doing a routine or difficult job. Next slide. And that's what a commendation looks like. And actually, that is the actual award write-up for Dave Gamble. So later on, you guys can look at that and see all the work that Dave was doing on board the Shearwater. Next slide. Now this is the auxiliary equivalent to our Meritorious Service Medal. So this is the Auxiliary Meritorious Service Award. Now this one, it's flag. It doesn't even give you an option to or director. So this one absolutely goes up to the front office to be signed and approved by our admiral. So that's kind of where I delineate where my signature stops and where the admiral's starts. So now the big difference here, just so you guys can look a little further behind the curtain, and at the district level, getting awards through the district awards board, like at the active duty Coast Guard type awards, it's an arduous process. It takes a while. These awards are going back and forth. It's a pain in the butt. I'm not going to kid you. You know, it's a royal pain in the lower unit, and it's painful. I am so fortunate to have the Auxiliary Awards Committee chaired by Commodore Saracen, because he does all this work for us, and we send this award straight to the front office for signature by the Admiral, and we completely bypass the Coast Guard District 5 Awards Board, which, trust me, Commodore Thornton can tell you, that is a huge blessing for us. That would slow our process down so much. Okay, next slide. So MSMs is an exceptional meritorious service, outstanding and meritorious service. The performance of duty is enhanced auxiliary goals. Performance is much higher than can normally be expected, and it must have a significant positive effect on the ability of the Coast Guard and or the auxiliary to complete its mission and goals. So if you were at the district training, you saw Commodore Adams at the end of his tour as the Commodore, the district Commodore. He got a Meritorious Service Medal. Just like I said, just to put it in comparison, I've done my whole career of 30 years, and I got my first MSM, you know, for this. Now, with a Meritorious Service Medal, there's also, you have to give a little more information. Now, not necessarily on this one, but an active duty Meritorious Service Medal, you have to write up a basically a summary of action. We don't necessarily have to get into the weeds on that with the auxiliary, but when you're putting someone in for an MSM, you really have to dot your I's and cross your T's. Okay, next slide. That's what one looks like. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the Medal of Operational Merit. This one is also 06 and above, or a director. Next slide. This one is dealing with operations, okay? So outstanding achievement of service of an operational nature. We're talking about direct, hands-on, pulling the babies out of the surf kind of stuff. Outstanding operational performance or skill, and may recognize cumulative, gosh darn, series of operational services. So since I've been in this job, we had a rescue that was performed, and they put the folks in for the MOM. So this is kind of a newer award, very special to get the MOM. Next slide. Now this would be the Auxiliary Plaque of Merit, and this one is only presented by a flag officer or the chief director of auxiliary, or with the chief director of auxiliary's concurrence. Next slide. Now this would be you're pulling someone out of harm's way, if you will. Heroism in the face of grave or personal risk, clearly stands out as above average expectations, extreme skill, assist or rescue, and risk to the auxiliarist's life. Now, I hope I don't see too many of these requests for plaque of merit, because the last slide is risk to the auxiliarist's life. I hope we don't have too many auxiliary members out there putting their lives at risk on a routine basis to try to get an award. I'm kind of halfway joking about that, but in all seriousness, you know, we also need to take it to heart, you know, about taking care of ourselves. Next slide. Here's a little chart of what some of the different awards look like. Next slide.
Commodore, we have a question.
Yep. Okay.
Commander, sir. The question is it advantageous to write a justification document, i.e. an expanded write-up to support abbreviated citation and an award recommendation?
That's always a good idea, in my opinion, because, you know, if you're limited to, you know, 12 to 19 lines or whatever the case might be, you know, give us something to work with. If you have a justification document on the side that goes into a little more detail, we might be able to pull something out of that to help justify your award. I try very hard, if you men and women out there are submitting someone for an achievement medal, I prefer not to knock it down to an LOC. My preference would be come back to you as the award originator and ask you for more justification to help us prop it up if we think that it would meet that. But absolutely, having a justification document is always a helpful thing. It could even be a paragraph in the email when you submit it through your chain, as long as that continues up to the awards board, gives them a little perspective. Commodore Saracen, I'd welcome your thoughts on that as well.
Yes, certainly. The more documentation you can provide, like you said, 12 lines, give or take, it can be very difficult to summarize that. So, yeah, a good best practice is if you have we don't need a novel, but you have additional justification that you might not think may or may not go into the citation itself. If you send that along, it's definitely welcome and encouraged.
I agree. Is there any more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. All right. Okay, so this is talking about expectations of how long it should take us to get our job done to support you. Transparency is very important to me. It bothers me when I hear folks in the field saying, well, I submitted my award and I never heard anything back. So this is our way of letting you folks know that the awards committee will need approximately or minimum of 45 days to process the award through my office. So I believe, Commodore Saracen, your goal is to submit it to me within 2 weeks. Is that correct, sir?
Our goal at the awards committee is upon receipt that we turn it around in 7 days is our goal. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's our goal, and we run pretty close to that.
Okay, outstanding. And Commodore, just so everyone on the line has an understanding of your awards committee, can you kind of explain to them, because one of the questions I saw earlier was about the concept of sector committees and all that stuff. I don't really think we need to go there, but we have pretty good representation from each one of the sectors. Can you give them a peek behind the curtain of what the awards committee does and who's involved?
Yeah, exactly. So we're working under the direction of the district commodore, so Michelle Thornton. She appointed me as the awards chair, and it was my recommendation, and by her blessing, we have one member from each sector representing the district. So starting from the north and sector Maryland National Capital Region, we have Bruce Pringle, who is very meticulous and a great asset to the committee. Moving south, sector Hampton Roads, we have Don Mason, very skilled and highly recommended by our director to be on said committee. And then heading south, we have David Fort in sector North Carolina, who was recommended, I'm pretty sure, by Alan Fred. So that is our committee, if you will. And when I receive the awards, I send them out. Everyone receives them. And my recommendation is wherever the award citation comes from, whatever sector, that member digs into it a little bit deeper. Bruce had one of the questions as far as checking into hours and things. We check into these things. So say, for instance, if we get a citation from a person in the sector of Maryland National Capital Region, we all look at them, but I would ask, in this case, Bruce being from the sector, representing his members, that he digs into it a little bit deeper. He digs into all the awards very deep because he's very meticulous, but we do check aux data, aux info, and verify that what is in said citation is actually in there. So, and like I said, our goal was a turnaround 7 days. And towards the end, I got a slide as a reminder. We'll talk about routing and communications towards the end. Does that work, Commander?
That's perfect. Thank you. And you reminded me of something else. You know, one of the reasons that we asked for a little more data when you guys ground truth this stuff, you put together some aux data info for us to consider. There have been cases. I'll use the award for Dave Gamble, for example, where once we dug into the data and we had the numbers, we were able to bump the award up. Now, granted, that doesn't happen all the time, but you know, that's why I tell you folks to take a peek, dig a little bit deeper, trust but verify, because sometimes you know, if we can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, we can get that person recognized for the award, maybe bump them up to an achievement instead of an LOC. But the trick here is all the awards that come into our office, they ultimately wind up on my desk for review, edit, and approval. Now, I will tell you, with Commodore Saracen and his Crackerjack team, the quality of the awards, and maybe partly because of our training that we've done at a couple of D trains, you guys are submitting much better awards that aren't requiring as much editing. So, you know, like I said, my goal is to get that thing out to you guys within 45 days. When I get the award, I roger up that the award's been received at the DIROC's office, and then when I submit it, when I've approved it and I've sent it to my yeoman to print, I also copy the folks that are on that email chain. So probably like the district captain, maybe the division commander, you know, basically the originating team, so you guys have a little bit of transparency. But at any time you have a question about the status of your award, I would encourage you folks to reach out to Commodore Saracen through your chain of leadership and management to see what the status of that award is. I can tell you Commodore Saracen has a spreadsheet, and he can tell you within a pretty good accuracy where it's at and what's going on with it. Okay, next slide.
Commander, we have a couple of hands raised and a question.
Okay, go ahead.
First, Commodore Thornton, do you want to present your question? Okay, I thought you had your hand raised there. If not,
sorry, I don't think I do, but I'm standing by.
Okay, good. Sorry. Richard Croasdale, it looks like you have a hand raised here also.
Actually, no, I didn't raise it, and my little hand in the logo here has the red arrow down, so I don't know.
All right, no problem. Showing
Okay.
up on my screen. All right, one question we have, do they let you know if the award is either downgraded or upgraded or not accepted at all? I sent all info from aux info and their award record. It has been more than 7 days, I believe. Thanks.
More than 7 days, I'd say that's too fast to hear anything back. In reality, once you submit that award, you're probably looking at 30 days before you really get any traction, because I'm assuming you folks and Commodore Saracen, correct me if I'm wrong, but the award's going to go from the originator to probably the district captain, and then the district captain straight to you as the awards committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And,
all right,
and we can talk a little bit about this now, since we've had questions on it, and we're putting this in the new awards guide. We've talked about it, and I've talked to Commodore Thornton about it, and she's blessed it. Because there's been an issue in the past with communications, as there's been questions, you know, where's the award? It goes up, never hear anything, no feedback. Does it go up in limbo? So our goal, and we'll be rolling this out starting June 1st, which is right around the corner. I'm going to send, as the awards chair, when I receive an award by the chair, I'm going to send out that I received it down through the chain to the originator. So everyone, these aren't long emails. And then another email will go out when it's processed by the committee. And then when Commander, because he copies me on email, when you send it to your staff for printing, I will send that email too. So at least with those 3 emails, received by the chair, processed by the committee, and literally sent to the printer in the DIROC's office. You have some wherewithal of where it is in the process.
That's perfect.
And as we go on, we can change things and make things better. But I think those 3 emails will give a lot of insight through the chain of where we are in the process.
That's great. The transparency is very important to me, you know, and something that makes it easy for me as well. When you send that email to the Commodore for her approval, if you have all those people that you just mentioned on that email chain to her, and when she responds to all and she sends it to me, now everyone's on that same email, and I'm simply replying to all that I've received it, and then I'm replying to all that I've sent it to the yeoman for preparation for my signature. When that message, when that email goes to my yeoman to print the certificate, that award has been approved. And something else that's helpful for us is to let us know what your intentions are with the award. I know that there's a block on the Coast Guard 1650 that talks about the presentation date, but you know, letting us know where you want us to send it. So sometimes it's always a guessing game. Well, should we send it to the division commander? Should we send it to the DCAP? You know, so you guys can help us with that as well. Any more questions on there, Nick?
Negative.
Okay, right on. Okay, so now we're back to, okay, you've got some person that you want to recognize for an award. So step 1, gathering the data. You know, you might want to talk with people in the chain of command, talk to his peers, his subordinates, and maybe some other witnesses. Look for formal or informal documentation. Next slide. The next one, so now we need to start working on some bullets. We need to state the impact. I like to say it I'm from Texas, I like to keep things very simple. What did you do? How did you do it? And what was the impact? Okay, remember those simple things. What, where, when, why, however you want to say it, but there needs to be some impact on it. You know, one of the things that's very easy to justify now is when you're doing these classes, you know, talking about how many people they interacted with, you know, how many miles that the person drove in conjunction with their RBS missions. You know, give us a little more data. What did they do? How did they do it? And what was the impact? Wordsmith in the statement, create one concise yet simple sentence. State what was done and how it was done. And we always use past tense. Next slide. Now, that being said, we use past tense, but then everything changes when we do an LOC, because then it's being written to you instead of talking about the person. So anyway, little small changes on that. Step 3, we need to decide on the level of the award. The higher the impact, the higher the award. You know, talk to folks in your flotilla, talk to your staff. You know, well, what do you think this person has done? What do you think what level do you think we need to be at? Review the award criteria. And then this here talks about the awards committee. They may raise or they may lower it as appropriate. And, you know, I think it was Miss Janet Houston had written in there in the chat earlier, you know, is there any information going back to the originator if the award is lowered? I would hope so, but I can't guarantee that. I have pushed awards back because I just didn't feel that it was warranted. I will push those back to the awards committee, not under Commodore Saracen's regime, but you know, and then it will go back to the originator to give us more information. We need more data to support the award. Next slide. So next, we want to look at that awards checklist that we talked about. When you start drafting the award, pull out this checklist, take a look at it. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, and I'll reemphasize that as well, Commander. As you mentioned before, you have it, you know, on your screen. I actually have I print out a hard copy and go through and look, because we all catch things along the way. So we cannot emphasize this checklist as a great thing.
I would say too, Commodore, that if I am, let's say I'm the DCAP, if I'm the DCAP and I've received this award, I want to do a double check. Or I'm the flotilla commander and I'm reviewing an award that my staff, whoever's reviewing it, that first line of review, pull this checklist out. Has that person dotted the I's and crossed the T's? Is it right? If everything is written well and the items listed on this awards checklist are squared away, we can get this award pushed through in record time. So, but it's really intended for the award drafter to pull this checklist out, and they are the ones to use it. And you guys, if you want to, you can send that awards checklist with your award recommendation and support through your chain. That way they see it. Anyway, next one. Step 4, use the award primer in the checklist. I'm a huge fan of the award primer. I will be honest, I use the award primer 9 times out of 10. I don't use the checklist that much because I'm not drafting awards. I'm usually looking at your awards. Use standard opening and closing jargon. Just because you guys are wordsmiths and you write really well, don't change the opening and closing phrase, please, because it is what it is. That is the way the opening and closing goes. Identify the position if it's appropriate and the time period. Okay, let me go ahead and talk about time period now. There's nothing written that says that you can't recognize someone for an award lasting or covering a period of 15 years. But if we're doing an award that's covering 15 years, we have failed miserably as leaders in this organization. In my humble opinion, I really try to encourage our leaders to recognize people in a timely manner. In my mind, maybe a 4-year period, maybe 5 at the most, but let's try to keep it in a short time frame and recognize them for the efforts they're doing. If you wait 15 years to give someone an award, what opportunities have we missed to recognize them for their performance, to encourage them, to motivate them, and to motivate others because they see this person is being recognized for their awards or for their performance. So that talks about the position being held, district staff officer for emergency management or incident management. Always capitalize the member's last name. It's always going to be Mr. or Mrs. or Commodore, not auxiliaries. This is my personal preference. I don't like the term auxiliaries. I prefer Mr. or Mrs. or Commodore. Very limited use of abbreviations. Remember, when the award's being read, it needs to pass grandma's test, okay? If grandma's in the audience, she needs to be able to understand what the hell we're talking about. And if we're using all this acronyms, it's not going to make sense to her. So we try to limit the use of abbreviations, and definitely we try not to do acronyms. Read the citation out loud, and then check the flow. Does it sound right? Next slide. And what do I write about? So really, to me, this is probably the coolest slide of this whole presentation. An award is really, 3, 5 items at the most, but really you can write an award with about 3 to 5 bullets, 3 solid things that they did. Because if you think about it, the opening and closing, that already takes up a huge chunk of your citation. So really you're working on that 3 to 5 bullets. What did they do and what did they do best? What had the greatest impact? So here's one here. Number qualified actions. So for example, 100 hours of member training, facilitated qualification of 3 new Ox Ops. Probably wouldn't use Ox Ops, but has the action and the results. So this here has everything we're looking for: the number of hours, what they did, and what the impact was. They qualified 3 new people. So here at the bottom, ask yourself, what was done, how did they do it, and what was the results? Next slide, please. Okay, hint for statistics. Okay, use numbers to quantify actions and provide concrete results. For example, Mr. or Miss Garza volunteered many hours of personal time watch standing, which saved the Coast Guard a lot of money. Guys, this is kind of funny, but we see this a lot. Okay, and let's be honest, when we typically have about 20% of our auxiliary members doing 80% of the work. So when I receive awards from you men and women out there, I realize that you guys are trying to recognize the people out there that are doing this 80% of the work. And sometimes we get busy and we're in a hurry to hurry up and submit the award, and maybe we don't go back and review and read that award write-up. But we get a lot of awards that are written like this. Another way to state it would be that Mr. or Mrs. Garza volunteered 400 hours serving in the operations center every Friday, which freed up one full-time equivalent person to perform other duties at the station, a benefit to the Coast Guard of, I can't see the number, but probably $10,000. So if you have some statistical data to back up the bullet that you're talking about, it just means a heck of a lot. Okay, next slide. Never, ever, ever criticize the individual's predecessor. You know, Commander May has done such a better job than the previous DIROCs. No, we never say that. You know, we don't talk about the predecessor. We just talk about what they've done. Focus on the items that the high profile or extended beyond a member's flotilla or division. The citation is an account which will be cherished by them and a source of pride for their families. I know a lot of Coast Guard members that have spent their whole career, just to give you guys a perspective, I know men and women that do a full tour at a Coast Guard active duty station, and at the end, they might get an LOC. Okay, so for an enlisted person, let me put this into perspective for you. An enlisted person, when they get an award, an achievement medal is worth 2 award points when they take the test to try to advance in the enlisted world. An LOC is worth 1 point. So these awards mean an awful lot to our men and women in uniform, just like it means a lot for our men and women in the auxiliary uniform. So, you know, we need to do our part to do our best to write these citations, because it will be cherished by our men and women. The reward and recognition handbook says we are telling the story to everyone about what the person is receiving the award has done. Okay, next slide. Here's some opening cheat phrases. Displaying, exhibiting, demonstrating, showing, using, marking, through, or making, sorry, next slide. Another thing that I use when I'm, sorry, my dogs are barking. Okay, I think they're done barking now. So another thing that I will do is, if I'm looking through my award citation on my computer and I see that I'm using the same word more than once, I'll you know, guys, I'm from Texas, so I like to use as many tools as I can. I'll use the thesaurus and figure out, well, how can I say that word differently? Okay, so use your resources is what I would tell you. Some other phrases that you could use: superior leadership, he ... Exceptional competence and professionalism, that's one of my favorite. Expert technical skills, highest degree of proficiency, accomplished organizational abilities, finely honed, keen oversight. And the last thing I would tell you, if you know I'm from Texas, don't use big words that I can't pronounce. Next slide. And as my daughter just said in the background, because I'm stupid. Okay, so some more cheat sheet words, some more adverbs: quickly, capable, professionally, skillful, proficiency, or proficiently, adeptly, effectively, efficiently. Next slide. And this is what we just talked about. Next slide. Okay, so the guts. So we want to steer away from specific jargon or acronyms. A good rule of thumb is to use a simple everyday words. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you know I'm from Texas, don't use big fancy words. Keep it simple. That way the masses understand what we're trying to convey. Next slide. So once we get all these 3 to 5 slides put together, now we're just going to start mixing them to tell the story the best. You know, we mix and match the words, the phrases, ensure the bullets flow, and the body of the citation, the 3 to 5 bullets turn into a powerful award citation. It's not difficult. So that's pretty much the how the whole thing comes together. Next slide. Before you turn it in, read it. Read it out loud. Make sure it makes sense to you. Make sure it flows. Okay. Next slide. So the 5th step, read it once. Okay. Okay. Edit the citation using the 4-step process. Read it once. Match the points with support. Read it a 2nd time. Organize into powerful, well-connected thoughts. Read it a 3rd time. Delete dead words. Read it a 4th time. Check grammar, spelling, punctuation, and capitalization. I really need your guys' help on the 4th. But you know, this has been put together by BSX. But really, the key here is when you're editing it and you're trying to get down to your sentence count. Be careful not to delete too much out that I can't understand what it was you were trying to convey to start with. So, you know, this is where we start deleting out these dead words and make sure we're still able to tell the story. Next slide. And then the last thing, we do the Coast Guard 1650. If we're going to do the Coast Guard 1650, we also need to know what other awards that member's had. If it's their 2nd award, well, depends upon when that other award was written. So if that award was given to that member during the time frame that you're trying to recognize them now, you have to attach a copy of that award to where we make sure we don't recognize them for the same thing. But anyway, so the 1650, I don't know why the Coast Guard Auxiliary calls it a 7002. Everybody in the Coast Guard refers to it as a CG 1650. You just go through it, complete the blocks. A team award, you can, the easiest thing is just to attach a piece of paper to it that's got all the team members' names, and then refer to the award primer. Next slide.
Do we want to look at the 1650, Commander?
If you want to.
For sure, I got it up. If it works. Let's see. I don't know why it takes it out. Okay, I can bring it up later.
Okay. Well, the 1650 is pretty self-explanatory. The biggest thing that you can help me with on the Coast Guard 1650 is what is the employee member's employee ID number or his auxiliary ID number? You know, has he had any other awards? Because that changes the citation, 2nd or gold star in lieu of a 2nd or 3rd, so on and so forth. And what is the expected presentation date? And be realistic, guys. I've seen some awards that come in and say, well, we want to give the award to the member next Friday. Well, that may not be realistic. Okay. And going back to the 6th step, refer to the award primer. Okay, now he's got the 1650 up.
Yeah, and as Commander mentioned right here in Block 9A, surprisingly, the majority of the 1650s received, this area isn't filled out. So it helps us as a guide. If there's a sense of urgency, we do our best. Please be realistic. But it's a goal to shoot for.
Okay,
For our store.
Commodore, can we talk about block? It looks like maybe that's 3B at the top, the O device, the coveted O device. Okay, so let's I'm going to give you guys a peek behind the screen curtain here. Unless you're actively involved in the operations, it's going to be difficult to get the O device. Most of our auxiliary awards that we give do not have the O device, okay? There's been a few, but the majority are not, okay? So we can talk about that separately. I'll take some Q&A on that as well, but just letting you guys know, usually most auxiliary members are not going to get the O device. And the other thing, if they've done something so operationally important, they might just get the MOM, the Medal of Operational Merit. Okay, next slide, please. Or go ahead and continue talking about this if you like.
Yeah, the only other comment I got on the 1650, it's not a requirement, but if at all possible, if you can use the electronic version and sign it electronically, it helps greatly. We can do it the old way, but if not, when I receive it, then I need to, print it out, sign it, scan it, and then email it. Electronic it just makes things a lot easier and quicker, more streamlined for us.
That works for me. Now, the other thing that the previous awards committee sometimes had problems with, if you look at the 1650, at the bottom where the signatures goes, there's our Commodore, are you still there? Okay,
Yeah,
it looks like you're still there. Okay,
I'm gonna bring it back.
Okay, so it only gives you 3 spots to sign in addition to whoever the originator is. So whoever submits it, which is usually the flotilla commander submitting it or the district staff officer submitting it on behalf, it only leaves 3 slots. So in theory, if you're sending it to the DCAP to sign, you're sending it to your awards committee chair to sign, and then your Commodore signs. There's not a lot of spots. So we got to be a little bit careful to leave room for the folks to sign off on it. Commodore, do you have any other comments on that?
No, I mean, if I always leave room for the district Commodore to sign. So if there's already 2 signatures, I will go ahead and process and endorse, but I won't put my signature on the 1650.
Roger that.
That's rare, and that's not a big issue, but I make sure that the DCO, District Commodore, has room to sign. So
thank you very much. Okay, good. We're ready for the next slide when you are. By the way, you're doing a great job flipping back and forth between the slides and the documents. I'm so glad you're driving the ship here.
We try our best. Thank you, Commander.
And those are for the folks online, it's a good thing we did a dry run of this last week because we found some challenges. All right, cool. So now step 7, we're going to double check the citation. We're going to use that checklist. We're going to go through it. Maybe you sleep on it a day, go set it aside, read it tomorrow, go through it, look at the checklist, submit the package through your chain of leadership and the management. And I'm really happy to hear that Commodore is instituting a check and a balance, using some transparency to let our chain of leadership and management know that award has been submitted. So I'm all for that. Thank you very much. Next slide. All right, some reviewers. Check the criteria for the award. Is the award level correct? And please, 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 okay, I'm going to go on my little soapbox here. Please don't submit awards higher than what you think and then expect us to just lower it. I've heard a lot of people say, not my auxiliary members, because you guys are much better, but I've had so many active duty people that will say, well, I'm going to put them in for an MSM and let the Coast Guard knock it down to a commendation, or I'm going to put them in for a commendation and let them knock it down to an achievement. Guys, cut through that crap. Please don't do that. Look at what they've done. Look at the body of work. Put them in for the award that you think that they've actually earned based on what information that you have, and let's just save us all a lot of time. So is the award level correct? is the correct, what's the correct number of the award? Is this their first one, second one? Is the format correct? Is the margins, the font, the layout? And please don't get clever to drop it to such a small font to where we can get more words in. At the end of the day, I'm over 50 now and have to use bifocals, so I still need to be able to read whatever it is that we award. The spelling and grammar, very important. And if it's not correct or the award level changes, send it back to the originator, and that's our commitment to you. Next slide. All right, so we already went over this. Commodore talked on this a little bit, but Commodore Saracen, he is our awards chair, and we have Bruce, Don, and David doing a heck of a bang-up job. So thank you all for your help on that. Okay, next one.
And actually, with this, because we're getting near towards the end, I just wanted to give anyone that's on the committee here, if they had any comments for the group that's on. So I know Bruce is here with us. If Nick, you could. Bruce, you want to share anything?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, got a little noise in the background, but I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, great presentation. Absolutely super. I'm impressed by the accomplishments of the awardees that are recommended, but I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people out there that should be recognized and aren't being recognized. One of the things I sort of see, though, that the recommenders tend to look at the person in their functional area of responsibility, wherever it is. You know, an SO for whatever, or an FSO for whatever. One really needs to look at individuals more holistically. For example, look at somebody that's in our number one mission, recreation boating safety, which covers PV, VE, PE, PA, and legislative liaison. So look at it from that standpoint. As some people may not have a staff position, they're doing great work, and they should be recognized also. If they meet
I'm sorry, Bruce. I'm gonna shut everybody off and turn you back on. Too much background noise. I apologize. Go ahead, Bruce. Let me turn on Commodore and Commanders. Hang in there. Commodore, you're on. Commander Mays, hang in there.
All right, Bruce, can you come back? You're unmuted, but you're self muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Right, great presentation. Impressed by what folks are doing out there. Absolutely amazing. But one of the things I see is that the recommendations tend to focus on single functional areas, i.e. they're the SO for something or the FSO for something. Our number one mission is recreation boating safety, and that covers PV, VE, PE, PA, and legislative liaison. That there could be somebody or many people out there that are doing many things and they don't hold a staff position. So you want to look at your folks holistically and say, what are they really doing out here? What is the impact they're doing, particularly in recreation boating safety? So I'd like to see a few more of those sorts of things come through. I'm done.
Let me chime in there real quick. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bruce, you bring up an excellent point. One of the things that I try to do is whatever the main bullet is that we're trying to recognize a person for, that is the one we put up at the top. And then towards the end of the citation, that's where I will pull in a few of those other things that member has done, and I might try to wrap it in and you know, in conjunction with the VE, you know, the member did X, Y, and Z. And truthfully, I get a little bit nervous when I see an award that is only recognizing that member for that one thing. Well, what else did they do? Because we know that auxiliaries did much more than just that one thing. So that's where that data that they give us, the write-up that they give us, helps us give that award, and it might bump them up from an an LOC to an achievement. So I definitely support what you're talking about. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah,
I
thank you, Rob.
don't see Don Mason with us unless he's called in, but I do see David Fort is with us. Nick, if you can unmute David, if you had any
Yeah, he's already unmuted.
comments, suggestions, anything you want to share with the group?
No, just that I want to make sure that everybody does take a good look at the outline, the guidelines. Where we see a lot of stuff is where the typeface is wrong, the formats aren't quite followed. It would just be a whole lot easier if everybody follows those guidelines.
I would
totally
agree.
Yep, totally agree.
I would agree with that too. You know, one thing I just had a thought of, if you guys get your staff together, your senior staff, maybe it's even just the flotilla commander and vice flotilla commander, they sit down and they say, okay, well, let's think about awards. Who do we need to recognize? Who's been doing what? And they do a brainstorming session. They get some stuff together. They can start off like that, figuring out who we're going to recognize, what we're going to recognize, and go from there. Truthfully, David Fort is absolutely right. If they're using the checklist, if they're using the award primer, we shouldn't be getting awards all jacked up, but we do. And then if we ask for more information from some originators, I hate to say it, sometimes we get attitude back from them saying, well, just forget it. I'm not going to do it. Just forget it. Well, that's the wrong attitude to have. So I hope our folks out there in these leadership positions will take our feedback constructively and help us help you. So that's what I'll say about that.
Thanks.
Commodore, were you going to say anything else on the awards committee, or are you good?
Good on that. I got this next slide real quick. Is they're talking about as far as routing and communications. I'll just do a brief on this.
Go ahead.
Just route the award package through the chain of leadership and management. It should go to the DCAP in the appropriate sector, and that DCAP will send it to me as the awards chair. And then, as I mentioned before, this is a recap. Those notifications, those 3 emails, will start going out June 1st once we receive the awards. And those 3 emails is when I receive the the citation, or basically the package received by the chair, processed by the committee, and then that email sent from the director when he tells his staff to send it to the printer. So I think that'll give a huge insight to the process and keep our folks that are writing these awards and taking the effort to recognize their members to know where it is in there. So
thank you, Commodore. And the other thing I would add to that is when the award comes in and it hits Commodore Saracen, he assigns an award case number to it. So we have a spreadsheet. Every award that comes in, regardless if it's returned or not, it's assigned an award case number. So at any given time, the award originator can email to find out the status of that award. And within, with pretty good certainty, we should be able to let you know the status of that award. Okay, so Nick, I think we're ready for you to open the floodgates on some questions that may be out there.
Okay, well, so far they've been, I think, self-managed. Wait a second, I think we got one coming in. Said, should DSO recommendations go to all 3 DCAPs?
that's something
that's a good question.
I've been toying with the awards guide, and I'll have it in there, which XCOM will be reviewing, and then the awards board will be as well.
And I think Michelle just answered to the DDC.
Yes. Yep. That would be my recommendation.
That's a good idea. It's a good thing we have her on board tonight. What other questions are out there, Nick?
We've been handling them as I've been going on. I don't see any hands raised at this time. So
there was one question that was
go ahead.
To me. Hope I answer it. They're talking about forms. The only if we're talking about form as far as the 1650, if you will, you can find that on the national website. If you go on the forms webpage, that form is on there. You can also Google it too, and there's other ways, but that particular form of the 1650 is on the forms warehouse on the national website. Okay, Commander.
Well, I was just going to say too that to me, this is what I get the most excited about is recognizing our people, because guys, let's be honest. They jokingly say that 20% of you guys out there are doing 80% of the work. So why not recognize the men and women that are doing this monumental task for us? So when I get these awards, yes, I may, I think I've called Don Mason back in the day when he had submitted, because when you put that originator, when you fill out that Coast Guard 1650 as the originator, it includes your phone number. So I've actually called people like Tom Ruby and Don Mason and just had a conversation about an award to get more understanding, because sometimes the awards are written in such a way that I'm just a director. I'm not the operational guy. So I need to be able to understand so I can articulate it well in the award write-up. But this is a team effort, and if you guys will take the time and challenge your staff to recognize their people, we will absolutely meet you halfway, and we'll do our absolute best to process these awards in a timely manner. So Nick, that's all I have. I think we would be remiss if we didn't offer Commodore Thornton an opportunity to address the class tonight.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if there's any other XCOM members on here. I saw Sam Tilley was here. Didn't see any other decaps.
And Commodore Thornton's mic is on.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Commander, and thank you, Commodore Surson. This is absolutely spot on, and everything we're doing to make sure that that feedback comes right back down to the originator of each award is necessary, and it will happen. And I look forward to sending the word to everybody that this is the process and this is how you find out about those awards. So thank you everybody that's on tonight, and we're going to make sure that we recognize our members. And I will just say that if there is someone that maybe doesn't quite get to the level of I won't say official award, but one of these awards that have been presented, I have lots of stationery. I have lots of presentation folders, and I am more than willing to come and recognize your members for their outstanding jobs that they do to make us all look great. So, please keep that in mind that, your Commodore is here to support you and your members. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore. Anybody else? Sam Tilley, do you want to say anything since you're online?
Nick's got to unmute him. No, he's unmuted, but you're self-muted. There you go, Sam.
Hey, they finally found a way to shut me up. Hey, listen, I think this was an outstanding program tonight, very helpful for everyone, and I'm very thankful that you folks all put this together for presentation. We have a lot of awards that are sent forward from this sector, and people mean exactly well. And tonight, I heard something from Commander May that I've heard before. I've had a couple that would get frustrated because the award was not submitted correctly and went back. And that's sad when that happens. But what we have done is learn to find someone else within the organization that's within the chain of leadership that can move forward on an award that was previously submitted, somebody else that can do the legwork. So we certainly want to do that to make sure that our members are all recognized for the good work they've done. And again, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. I echo that. You know, that's one of the things that we've heard complaints about, the lack of transparency, the lack of folks knowing what's going on. My personal goal, unless the award is really, really fallen short of justifying the level of which it's been submitted, I will just, when it gets to me, I'll pick up the phone. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call you folks, and we'll have a chat, and you guys help me write the award. So it's definitely a team effort. Any other comments? And it looks like Rich Crosdale has a question.
Stand by, I'll unmute him.
Are you sure you want to do that? Just kidding, Rick.
I just have to find him. It's a very small window, so I have to go through it, but we'll get to him. Okay, here we go. All right.
Okay, I heard that.
Who loves you, Rick?
I know, sir. I've got a gentleman in my division who's in the last couple of years has been fighting serious illnesses, but prior to that, he's going to have 15 years in come August. And I really feel I'd like to give him some award because he put his heart and soul into the operations, the boat program for one of the flotillas. And I guess I'm a rookie at this, but what would be an appropriate award to give him when he retires?
Well, Rick, I think you know, is in the auxiliary and also the active duty side, there's no such thing as a retirement award. There's no such thing as an end of tour award per se. It still has to stand on its own. The merit still has to be there to justify an award. If it's who I'm thinking about, first of all, I would never recommend doing an award that covers 15 years just to have a lot of hours to justify an award. That to me is not the intent of the award. It needs to be for a short amount of time. If the person was your FSO ops for a certain amount of time, maybe you do like a 5-year period. You talk about the impact that the person had. Maybe you could do, definitely an LOC based on something like that. But depending upon what the data was, you might be able to bump it up. Was there a SAR case involved? This is where you get your committee together. You sit down, you talk to a few people, you brainstorm, and you start brainstorming about some of these ideas, and you're writing these ideas down, and then these bullets help you justify and write the award, and then you can figure out what the level should be. But if it's who I'm thinking about down there, I would think it would be very easy to justify to start with an LOC and then go up from there.
Okay, I can certainly do that, and I can focus on a 5-year period. He did have a great SAR case with a boat fire and rescuing 7 people from the water, stuff like that I can put in there. So,
and that's where you need to make sure that he wasn't already recognized for an award for that. And our office, this is for everyone's knowledge. If you have a question about a member, you're wanting to figure out if they had the award. I mean, you can look at Aux data, you can look at Aux info, but that only gives you numbers. That only gives you dates. If you contact my office, we can pull the member's hard copy record, and we can send you provided it's in the record, of course. But we can send you the citation that the member got, so you make sure we don't duplicate that. For example, Frank Hudson. Frank was a volunteer for many, many years in the district or the district waterways management office, and he had gotten a couple of awards over his time. Well, he was retiring from the waterways management per se, not retiring from the auxiliary, but he had done his time and he was ready to move on. So they wanted to do we'll call it a retirement award, if you will, but they did an award, and based on the data, based on the numbers, I was able to raise that award to the next level up based on the information they provided. So it all starts there.
okay. Thanks very much, sir. I appreciate the comments.
You're welcome, Rick. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
What else do we got, guys?
I think we're good, Commander. So appreciate your time and effort in this and facilitating from the director's perspective, because you know the buck stops with you. So appreciate your insight, appreciate your time, and looking at the attendees, I think we crossed the highest we had this evening was 52 members. So
Cool.
a good showing, and we'll try to do this again before the end of the year and present another opportunity. And this session is being recorded, so I know it'll be up on the district website sometime in the near future, so that any member that couldn't attend this evening can certainly download it and watch it at their leisure. So
outstanding. Commodore, thank you. Thank you, Nick, for all of your help. To me, I truly, I feed off of this stuff. This is fun. I enjoy the awards presentation class very much. I was a little bit nervous about how this one would work, but I would definitely recommend that we post the PowerPoint presentation, the award primer, and the checklist up on our district website so people can pull it down if they would like to. So pending your questions, comments, that will be it for me.
yes, that's everything I see on my end. So unless you see anything, Nick, I think we can wrap this up for this evening. And again, appreciate everyone's attendance.